Hey guys, what is going on? It's another day and it's another pair of boots. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about a very special pair of boots from Division Road, one of the coolest shops out there that specializes in TRICKER'S boots. And a massive, huge thank you to my buddy Michael Boccia, who runs the Instagram account Michael Boccia Mortgages, who had these boots routed to me. These are actually his boots, but he was kind enough to let me take them in and unbox them and review them before sending them on to him. So thank you, Michael, so much for sending these my way. So first and foremost, I did not unbox these boots because this is probably the coolest boxing I've ever seen. Very huge kudos to Division Road for string tying this box with twine before shipping it off. That is super duper cool. They also wrapped it in paper, and on this it says Dale. Thank you for your order and excellent selection. This TRICKER'S / Division Road charcoal chamois low leg logger is a fan favorite that is a wardrobe staple in any collection. Let us know if you have any questions. Enjoy. Best regards, Lauren and the Division Road team. Very nice. And this also got Division Road stamps on there. Virginia, USA. Amazing packaging. It also came with this little postcard. It says, explore your style. Division Road is a menswear boutique with a footwear first approach to a carefully crafted selection of exclusive goods from North America, Western Europe, and Japan, procured to fulfill the needs of stylish collectors. They have an amazing array of TRICKER'S, Viberg Boots, and White's boots, among many other brands that I love, like Momotaro, Chaco Atelier, Denim, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Crockett & Jones, and others. Super duper cool. I hate to open this up because it's so damn pretty, but here we go. I mean, that's part of what I love about some of these boutique shops. They really nail the unboxing experience, and that's one of the things I've really tried to encapsulate in my videos, is just how magical some of these unboxing experiences are. Some of these brands like Viberg, Division Road, Grant Stone, it literally feels like you're opening up a time capsule when you open up these boxes, because they don't feel modern. They don't feel fast fashion, fast industry. It very much feels like you're taking a step back in time. And so thank you to Division Road for that. So here we go. TRICKER'S, established in 1829. Amazing. I feel like royalty. All right, first and foremost, so I see Division Road wrapping paper in here. Really nice touch, really professional. Wrapped around the TRICKER'S. So Division Road would have added this paper in with the TRICKER'S polishing rag that it comes with. And then we've got a little bit of TRICKER'S literature, built to last. Northampton through and through. All right, got them unboxed. Wow, look at these bad boys. So here it says it on the box. So it says men's HORWEEN chamois black reversed rough out low key logger boots, size 7.5, fitting 5, style number 8250/3. So this is a half size down from what I wear in TRICKER'S typically. These are a 7.5. I typically wear a UK 8, which is a full down for my Brannock. But looking at this, you know, I could probably make that work, especially if I wore a super thin sock. Maybe. Those TRICKER'S lasts are built nice and rounded out on the toe. So let me read off before I start giving my observations on this. So again, this is the low leg logger. It's the 4497 on Commando sole in HORWEEN charcoal chamois rough out. They're currently sold out of this style. Chris got these on sale for $435 in the description, which Division Road always kills it in the descriptions. The TRICKER'S Division Road HORWEEN charcoal chamois rough out low logger boot is an exclusive collaboration with the definitive maker of English country footwear. Using a premium HORWEEN hard-wearing leather upper and a natural leather barber welt paired with a Goodyear Commando sole. This Division Road exclusive style utilizes a steely charcoal chamois that's a highly oiled, fat-liquored, full vegetable retanned nubuck produced by HORWEEN, resulting in a flexible and durable leather with a natural feel. When used on the rough outside, the heavy oil content of this chamois leather produces a glossy nap that enhances the protection against water and debris. It requires minimal maintenance and grants a tonal and textured patina with heavy usage. The low leg logger boot is a newer TRICKE'S hiking boot pattern with a deep vamp, shortened counter, and heel pull for trekking majesty. All TRICKE'S undergo 260 individual steps in which craftspeople include a mulling concoction to infuse the uppers with oils, a wooden shank, a corking compound from a century-old recipe, and exquisite English finishing. This logger's more robust silhouette is achieved by using the 4497 last that creates a substantial yet elegant design that accommodates a variety of foot types. This results in a simple forest to frontier focused boot that combines country footwear build quality with a modern form, made to the refined craftsmanship standards expected from a TRICKE'S. With its natural barber stormwelt and midsole, a British-made Goodyear Commando sole and brass eyelets, this boot takes a British classic to refined heights while acting as a foundation to any ensemble. As England's oldest shoemaker, royal warrant holder, originator of the country boot, and one of the first and few still utilizing traditional Goodyear welting to the highest standards of quality in the industry, a TRICKE'S truly is made to last a lifetime in all conditions. This model is exclusive to Division Road. Once again, we've got charcoal chamois rough out from HORWEEN. It's on the 4497 last. Leather lining, bellows tongue. The bellows tongue is interesting because I think it might refer to this style of tongue, which I'll try to get good outside shots of this. But basically, the tongue is in charcoal chamois rough out, but then there's like a another half tongue stitched on the inside of it. I think that's what might make it a bellows tongue. Let me know in the comments if anyone out there knows what a bellows tongue is. This is the first time I've heard of it. There is sort of a gap right here where there is no lining. So the lining on the vamp extends to right here, and then there's no lining here, giving this creasing area a lot of flexibility. And then another lining starts here. So there's like a good inch gap right here where there is no lining there. So once again, I will try to capture that, but that's unique. I've never seen that before, a bellows tongue. Okay, I'm sure there's a whole story there. Got brass eyelets all the way up. We got a wood shank and cork-filled insole. We've got the natural barber stormwelt, which is so damn good looking. We've got a natural midsole, natural full grain vegetable tanned midsole, that is. Goodyear lug commando sole, TRICKE'S Division Road collaboration stamp. Oh yeah, that's on the heel seat on the inside. Division Road's signature yellow fabric pull loop. That's really cool. I've never seen that before. Black nylon and tan nylon laces. Goodyear welt construction, handcrafted in England. As for sizing, so the Division Road's website is a little confusing. They say go one size down from a common US boot and shoe, or 1.5 sizes down from US sneaker. So for me, personally speaking, I'm a size 9 Brannock. I find that the TRICKE'S size 8 fits me perfectly. I wear typically 8.5 Grantstone, 8.5 Alden. I could go down to 8Es in both of those brands, but I find that the TRICKE'S in 8 is a perfect fit. Also, I wear 8.5D Red Wing, 8.5D most US boots, 8.5D Truman on their 79 last and 20 last, perfect fit. The TRICKE'S size 8 for me is a perfect fit. And a little bit about TRICKE'S. So founded in 1829 by Joseph Tricker, TRICKE'S is the longest established shoemaker in England, approaching 200 years of quality footwear production, and is recognized as the maker of choice for heavy country boots. Joseph Tricker's son-in-law, Walter James Barreltrop, created the first model of the now famous waterproof country boot in 1848 when he was just 7 years old. Bartletrop propelled a second key innovation at Tricker's when he introduced the Goodyear welting machine at the turn of the 20th century. Division Road has a lot of other really great looking Trickers in stock. Some of them are on sale. They have the 4497 Stow Boot Ridgeway in HORWEEN Brown Nut Dublin, which I'm also selling kilties in now. The HORWEEN Brown Nut Dublin, absolutely beautiful leather. They only have those remaining in a size 7. But they've got other really great makeups, like the Super Monkey Boot on the 5402 last in HORWEEN Natural Chrome XL. They also offer that same Super Monkey Boot in Storm Waxed Kudu and in Baltic Waxed Kudu in Natural Chrome XL. Wow, that's a killer combination. They have a really attractive Eaton boot, 4497 Commando in Coffee Burnished. That thing is an absolute grail. That checks all the right boxes. They have the Stow Boot on the 2298 last in HORWEEN Navy Chrome XL. That is utterly stunning. A short wingtip boot, absolutely beautiful against that natural welt. And yeah, many others. Anyways, I will leave a link to the Division Road Trickers collection in the description below. Check those out if you are interested. I highly recommend if I'm going to recommend anybody buy Trickers, I recommend going to Division Road. No doubt about it. They have the best collections, not of just Trickers, but also they have just a killer whites collection. They have just an absolutely killer Crockett and Jones collection. Look at their whites too. Their whites, they have a lot of amazing two-toned whites boots in stock, and they're just stunning. Like, seriously. The guys at Division Road really have just phenomenal taste. Can't say enough good things about Division Road. Over time, they've really earned my respect. I think they're really doing something good, really doing something right, really honoring American heritage, even though this is a British boot. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I really love plain toes. They're so easy to wear, and they're really cool. They're not plain. I've said this in many videos thus far, but a plain toe is not plain, especially when it's made in these premium and very exciting materials. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I absolutely adore chamois leather from HORWEEN. It is a really oily, rich rough out. They do some of the best rough outs in the world, in my opinion. Chamois is right up there with Stead's Rambler and Shell Cordovan. To me, chamois is one of my favorite leathers of all time. I absolutely adore it. It smells amazing. It's got a really nice soft nap, but at the same time, heavily oiled. Like, you don't need to ever condition these. These have been pre-conditioned for like 10 years in advance. Like, these things are not going to dry out. They are so well nourished all the way through. They're completely struck through, and I can tell that because of this raw edge here. You see black all the way through. There's no natural in there anywhere. These are lined with a nice smooth black leather on the inside. Really nice choice on the eyelets here. The gold really contrasts beautifully against the black. One example that I would like to highlight that I have are my Truman boots in black shrunken bison, which is pretty similar to this makeup. Yeah, so this also has the brass eyelets, and I just really love the sharp contrast there. The black with those piercing golden eyelets coming through. And then not to mention that lug commando sole also on these Trumans. So let's do a little size comparison here. So these are Trumans, size 8.5 on their 79 last, versus Trickers on the 4497 last, size 7.5. Gonna line up these heels as best as I can, and as you can see, it looks like the Truman's toe extends a little bit beyond that of the Trickers. The Trickers are just a half size smaller volume-wise. They're a half size shorter, and a similar aesthetic. A good comparison here. In my opinion, if you're gonna do a black boot, I really love a natural insole midsole combination to just make it not so boring, because in my opinion an all blacked out boot gets kind of boring. I really like the contrast there in the sole in most cases. That's just generally speaking. So I do see some, as far as like minor imperfections go, I see some rolling but that's not a big deal. That's from the machine. Yeah, TRICKER'S quality. I mean, that's a 360-degree Barber storm welt. I assume Barber is just the brand of leather or the company that provide them with the storm welts. But yeah, that's really well done, and that storm welt will help to keep water out if you're walking in the rain. This heavily oiled chamois will also keep water out. Like, chamois is deceiving because by the looks of it, you'd think that water would absorb into it, but that's not the case. I have some Alden Roy boots in reverse tobacco chamois that my feet have never gotten wet in because the water lands on this and it just beads off. It's crazy. Looks can be deceiving. Now let's bring into the frame some more boots that I think kind of compare nicely to these. So here we have my Truman boots in the same leather. This is in HORWEEN's charcoal chamois. It's the same stuff. The nap is a little shorter though. It's a little bit more shaved down compared to this. This nap is really fuzzy on this chamois. And that's one of the things about chamois is you have kind of a variation in chamois leathers. Like on these Trumans, it's kind of shaved down pretty close to the core. And so it's still fuzzy, but it's not that fuzzy. It's more like a suede. You know, if you were to tell me that that was a suede, I'd believe you more than if you told me that that was a heavily oiled rough out. It just doesn't feel like a rough out because it's just so, you know, like they said in that description there, when it gets matted down, it has almost like a little bit of shininess to it. And that's what's going on with these Trumans. And these are some of my favorite black boots for sure. They just check every box for me. Cap toe. The 430 full sole is okay. I would have actually probably liked a commando on these, but that's okay. But yeah, you can just see the variation in the chamois right there. This is a dramatically nappy chamois on the TRICKER'S, whereas on the Trumans, not super nappy. You know, it's there, but it's not super duper nappy. And then, next up, these are the Parkhurst Richmond boots in black waxy. And really, in many ways, a perfect contrast to the Trumans. Now, many might think, why do you have both of these in your collection? And sometimes I ask myself that same question, but really, setting the TRICKER'S aside, these are two different boots. They're both black fuzzy boots, black textured boots, but this is a chamois and this is something else. The chamois is a heavily oiled rough out, as I mentioned before, whereas this black waxy is a waxed suede. They're completely different. They might look the same. They might both look black and fuzzy and waxy, but one of these is waxed, the other one is oiled, and one of these is a rough out and the other one is a suede. So maybe to a newbie these are different boots, but to a seasoned boot collector, they will laugh at you if you think that these are even close to being the same thing. Now, that said, the lasts that these are built on, the Truman and the Parkhurst, this Parkhurst 602 last, it's got an unstructured toe. It's much more sleek compared to the Truman. The 79 last is much more bulbous, a lot more room in the vamp, more raised walls. And then, not to mention on the Parkhurst, we've got a lug commando sole. We've got different eyelets on both of these. On the Parkhurst, we've got smaller circumference eyelets. On the Trumans, we've got larger circumference eyelets. The Parkhurst is on a 360-degree split reverse welt, which is not a storm welt, whereas the Trumans are on a 180-degree storm welt. That storm welt is very similar to the Barber welt used on the TRICKER'S. Yeah, looking at the size even closer, really lining up the heels better. Yeah, the Trumans are definitely a half size larger. All right, so let's bring out my TRICKER'S. So these are the TRICKER'S Stow boot in a size. These are the TRICKER'S Malton boot in a size 8. And to compare them to my Trumans in 8.5, you can see what I'm seeing here is exact length here. Exact. So 8.5 Truman, 8 TRICKER'S, I believe they're exact. Now, when I compare the Trumans to the 7.5s, they appear a half size shorter. But then again, so it's hard to line these up, and I'll tell you, this is why my method of looking at sizes is Tricky. Comparing sizes from brand to brand is always so tricky. No pun intended. This is a TRICKE'Rs review. Let's look real close, real quick, at the TRICKE'Rs. Look at where the back heel stay is seated in relation to the back of the sole. All right, so you see that the back heel stay is about 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters forward advanced of this line here. Notice that line. See that gap between the line of the edge of the back of the sole and the back of the heel stay. You see that gap there, that 2 millimeter gap? Now, that's on the TRICKE'Rs. Now watch this. Look at the gap between the Truman's back of the sole and the gap between the back heel stay and the line, right? There is no gap. So there's no gap. It's completely closed off here. The line is completely closed off. Whereas on the TRICKE'Rs, there is a gap. And on these TRICKE'Rs, there is a gap. There's a little bit less of a gap on these compared to the charcoal rough outs. All right, let's look at the Parkhurst. Now, this heel actually is slanted, right? And so there's not much of a gap because the heel's actually slanted. I've never seen a heel slanted like that. So this is splitting hairs. But when I'm lining up boots to line them up for sizing, I'm looking at the back of this back heel stay, because that's actually the back of this back heel stay to the front of this toe. Sole, or like disregard the sole altogether. I'm trying to eyeball this and line it up with the back of this as well, and then go forward and then see which one extends further to determine the length. And so that's what I'm trying to do. So it gets very tricky because the TRICKE'Rs here, the back of the heel protrudes so far back beyond the back heel stay. Just a little bit more insight into my methodology as to how I try to line this stuff up. It's not an exact science, and I am not an expert. I'm just a boot lover and enthusiast, so I'm doing my best to inform you guys. I'm sorry. I try not to be confusing, but there's so many variables involved. And then, not to mention, am I holding the boots exactly straight? If I turn one boot, it starts to lose length. It starts to look shorter. If I turn one of the boots, if they're not in perfect alignment, and I try to do the right boot and the right boot and the left boot and the left boot. Anyways, I'm droning on, but you get the point. That's sort of the method to my madness when it comes to sizing determinations. But anyways, I love comparing things like this because when it comes to boots, there's so many dang variables, and it's so much fun to get into it and really pick apart the nitty gritty because there's so many different things you could do. Look at this. Some guys might think, oh, just one of these in your rotation is enough. But you see how there's so many different variables involved from boot to boot. Look at all three of these and their back heel stays. On the TRICKE'Rs back heel stay, it's actually a pretty low cut back heel stay, and it actually has a bit of an arch at the very back of it as it leads into the back heel strip. The back heel strip actually has a little bit of a loop to fit your finger in addition to the pull tab. So you have a couple options when it comes to getting that boot on in terms of pulling it on. So the Trumans also have a standard back heel stay and a back heel strip. The Parkhursts do what Viberg does, and they do this full back heel block piece, which comprises the back heel stay and the back heel strip in one piece. Heel stiffeners are added in all of these. It's just interesting to compare all that stuff. The welts, the back stays, the vamps, all of these have raw edges along the eyelet facings and the throat, all raw edges, all completely struck through, all similar leathers, if not the same leathers. It's just fascinating to sort of look at how a black chamois could be fuzzier than another black chamois, and then a waxed suede could look very similar to a black chamois. And all this talk about chamois, I had to bring in my Roy boots in reverse tobacco chamois, recently resold by my friend and cobbler Sonny Yu. He threw some full grain vegetable tanned JR soles on there, absolutely beautiful. And I threw in some of my natural Chrome Excel B grade kilties into these, and this is definitely a fuzzier chamois much more fuzzy than the Truman's here. This chamois is just as fuzzy and nappy as the chamois on the TRICKER'S there. This is basically an interesting comparison because these are Alden's on the True Balance last in a very similar build. Alden 8.5, TRICKER'S 7.5. So there you go. That's what a full size difference looks like. Not much of a difference, is there? No, not really. But when it comes to that line gap, but there is some gap on the back of the Alden's too, probably about a millimeter. About half the gap of the TRICKER'S. The TRICKER'S again is probably 2 millimeters. And while we were plugging my website so profusely, I was going to dedicate a video to this topic, but maybe not. I feel like maybe just dropping little bits of information in every boot review might be the most helpful way of doing it. But I now offer on my website, dalesleatherworks.com, 3 different thicknesses of insoles. And you can see that when I turn them on their side here. So we've got thin, which is 5 ounces. This is pure vegetable tanned leather. Sizes range from 40 to 48. And they do run a little small, so don't pick your true to size, pick one size up from your true to size. That's my general rule. So for example, in my Alden's and my Grant Stones in an 8.5, I don't use a 42, I use a 43 insole. And I'm still working on getting the sizing guidance. I'd like to get a size guide sheet out. But for now, if you have any questions, just reach out. But yeah, I now offer on my website 3 different thicknesses. So the medium thickness is 10 ounces. That's what I've been selling up till now. It's the perfect thickness for most if you just need a bump in volume. If you're off by say like a half size or a full size, then this will help. For the thin one, 5 ounces, nice thin insole, comparable to those Pedag ones that I see on Amazon that absolutely suck. These are all full grain vegetable tan. This is the same leather you find in these layers of the boot. The insole, the midsole, these really thick veg tan layers that are there for comfort and structure and moisture wicking. That's the same stuff that I'm using for the insoles. The reason I offer these now is I can't find them anywhere on the internet, so I just started offering them myself. And then the creme de la creme, the monster, the Cohiba. This is the thick veg tan insole. This is harness leather. It is 15 ounces. And let me tell you what, your size better be off by about a full size and a half to 2 sizes if you want this one. This one is more expensive. This is a hard leather to source. It's also a hard leather to cut through. These are no joke. Your size, you better be missized by a lot, and you better want those boots because basically, I'm a 9 Brannick. I wear an 8.5 in most US boot brands. If I had like a pair of boots in like a size 10, something crazy like that, or 10.5 that I needed to make fit for whatever reason, just sentimental reasons or whatever, this is the leather I'd go for. You're gonna be standing on that. That's a full another layer. This insole is thicker than the insole and midsole combined on the TRICKER'S. Yeah, this insole is just as thick as the full JR outsole on the Alden's. So anyways, this is thick as shit, and don't just go ordering this wantonly. You know, I offer this as a courtesy. This leather is very expensive to source. It's very difficult. It's very it's actually very rambunctious. Like it doesn't like to stay folded up neatly. It kind of wants its own space. Like you could try to ravel it up, but it'll just unravel on you because it's just so thick. It has a mind of its own too, so just keep that in mind. I do this for you guys. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for you. If you have a pair of boots that you need to make fit and they're way too big, this is the leather for you. You'll be in my thoughts and prayers. Anyways, check those out, dalesleatherworks.com. In 90% of cases, I recommend the standard middle. If you just need a little bit of a bump, go for the thin, just a tiny bump. And if you really need help, if you're on the verge of doing a relast, which costs like $500, don't do the relast, don't do the resole, don't have the boots rebuilt. See if these insoles work first. These are moisture wicking, they're harness leather, they offer more support. Your boot will be more supportive for standing on all day than before. Anyways, wow, what a video. We covered a range of topics. I hope I didn't confuse anybody. Yeah, once again, I will leave links to the Division Road TRICKE'Rs collection in the description below if you are so tempted to check out their makeups. Once again, I think the Division Road team does probably one of the best jobs out there at stocking TRICKE'Rs among other makers, period. Please leave me your thoughts on these black reversed rough out low-key logger boots. I am always eager to hear your thoughts. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching. Let's keep the love of boots alive. I will see y'all in my next video.